Well, I certainly thought that Hyrule Warriors was going to be getting an overview trailer because we are now 13 days away from this game's release, but today we did not get an overview trailer. We did get another new trailer that's about 1 minute and 40 seconds of brand new footage, so I am here to break all of that down today. Let's get right into it. This trailer has a whole bunch of new information for us to dive into, starting off here with this opening shot with these pigeons flying through the air over what I presume to be the Great Plateau. Now, why do I think that Rauru is standing in this field here on the Great Plateau? Well, it's because you can see in the background the temple or castle, whatever you would like to call this structure in the background, and we have seen this structure in the background before on the Great Plateau in this opening area that we have seen so many times since the initial reveal trailer. We can also see this orange-like mountain in the background that is very reminiscent of the Gerudo region. It's obviously pointing towards that direction, and of course, the Great Plateau is right next to the Gerudo region, so we know that is from the Great Plateau. Next up, we get a look at the secret stones that will be given out to all of the different sages. This is sitting in the temple in which they are all gifted their stones. Then we get to see in the palm of Ganondorf's hand a little bit of that gloom, a little bit of that darkness of him in his Demon King form. This is just a really cool cutscene showing off the budget in this game. This game is going to be phenomenal, and they really have put a lot of work into it. Next up, we can see here the secret stone being probably applied to the forehead of Ganondorf with that purple light is just really amplifying the actual power of Ganondorf himself. These stones do not give you any powers, they just amplify the powers that you already have, and if you are already as powerful as Ganondorf was without any sort of stone, this is even more of that. He is amplifying his own ability, and this light is just showing off a very fearsome amount of power. Next up, we get a look at this construct that I am pretty confident is Link. We have been talking about this construct for ages and ages with this game. They are not being shy about Link anymore. Sonia then is here next to this sunflower, and it is just such a interesting dynamic. I talked about this in one of the very first trailers, but just to see her with this one flower that is supposed to cure gloom, and she herself will fall victim to that gloom. We get ourselves a look at Rauru as the camera pans around him, and he looks into the distance. He looks at whatever is approaching him, and then it transitions into that malice red background behind him, which is just very indicative of the problems to come and the malice to come. Then we get ourselves another look at the gloom here flying through the air. It is swirling in this red environment. Then Ganondorf in his Gerudo form pans back to the camera. We see him then with his Demon King form with the secret stone on his forehead and all the malice surrounding him, the gloom surrounding him. Then we get another look at a brand new type of enemy, a Colgera with Ganondorf's hair and then the Queen Gibdo, but looking a lot different than normal. Both of these monsters, both of these bosses are much different than their Tears of the Kingdom counterparts. With Colgera here, we can see it is swinging its arms forward at Zelda and using different attacks from its base Colgera model in the very first Tears of the Kingdom game. Now with this game going back in time, we can see what these enemies looked like back when they were in Ganondorf's era. They were much more powerful, and they appear to have been a lot more deadly because Colgera in Tears of the Kingdom was not very deadly. It was huge and it was a cool spectacle, but all you really had to do was fly through the hoops, and that was it. With this game, we are going to be having a lot harder of a time defeating this enemy. And then we get to see the Gerudo Sage, of course, fighting the Queen Gibdo, with both of the designs are being a lot different. Both of them include a lot more aspects of Ganondorf's personal features. You can see just the narcissistic tendencies of him to put himself in his own enemies. And I suppose I am kind of assuming that this is another Gibdo type enemy because it does very closely resemble the Queen Gibdo from Tears of the Kingdom, but it could just be a different type of enemy altogether. Both of these are probably not the exact same creatures. They are more like alterations of them. They're first editions of them. And of course, the attack patterns and features are going to be a lot different because this game and its gameplay style is incredibly different from Tears of the Kingdom. Having that Hyrule Warriors mantra, that warrior style of game, it has to be different from the base game because if not, you're going to be playing pretty much the same game again. So they make sure the redesigns here are interesting because they want us to see something different. They want us to know these are different creatures. And also, it just adds a little bit more lore to this world. Like, why are these creatures different? What made them worse because eventually they didn't come around in Tears of the Kingdom, right? So Ganon decided that he didn't want to reincarnate them. He didn't want to make them better. So what did he decide to do with these old creatures? And did we defeat them? And he decided that they wanted to be different for Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know. It's very interesting. But another thing I just really want to point out here with these two bosses, I can really appreciate and see the frame rate. This game runs so well, especially compared to Age of Calamity's first game. Oh my goodness, this looks so much better on the Switch 2, and Koei Tecmo and Nintendo have pushed the console to its limit to make this game look phenomenal. Then we get a picture here of Rauru beating up all these constructs with his cool arm, his green glowing powers, and his staff. We get a little cutscene of him looking cool with a bunch of people in the background, and then Sonia once again surrounded by these sunflowers. Then we get Zelda and a look at this construct. She reaches out her hand almost lovingly towards what appears to be Link, and then before she touches his chest, she moves her hand back almost as if she's trying to restrain herself because she knows this is not her Link. As much as she wants it to be Link, it's probably not Link because we know for a fact, Tears of the Kingdom, Link does not know what happens. He does not know what happened in the past. He only finds out through memories and through Zelda finding her in the sky and all of that. So we know that he can't remember any of this. There is a theory going around saying that the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, the Shrine of Resurrection, he went through that memory loss and then forgot all of this ever happened. So maybe that is technically Link and he just went through that memory loss and then forgot it all, and in Tears of the Kingdom he had no idea what happened, and that would technically make sense, but it's still interesting to me how they really are not telling us this is Link even though it probably is. So I'm just trying to shoot ideas around here and shoot down potential thoughts on what it could or couldn't be. And right next to Link, this construct is the Korok that we have seen over and over again in some of these newer trailers. I have reason to believe, and so does a lot of Zelda Twitter, that this Korok is going to eventually become the Great Deku Tree. Alongside of this trailer, the past couple of days and weeks leading up to this game's eventual release here on November 6th, we have gotten a lot of new renders, including a new render of this Korok figure, and this is from Zelda Lore here. He says, people are pointing out that Karamo's, because we got a bunch of the names, Karamo's leaf hat is a cherry blossom tree leaf, which naturally the Deku Tree from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom also has, coupled with the fact that he's looking for a place to quote-unquote settle down roots. The idea he will become the Great Deku Tree is becoming more and more real. I guess we will have to wait to see in the game if this comes true or not. Then we get a look at the Zora Sage fighting off a ton of these muddied up bokoblins. We get Rauru and his hands stretched out using his powers, and then the Gerudo Sage uses her lightning powers as well. Then the Goron Sage uses his powers. All of them are kind of back to back here, and Koei Tecmo is showing us how we're going to be playing with these characters, what their movesets could potentially look like, and it's just great to see that they continue to highlight the sages. They really want us to know, hey, we are going to be playing as these guys. We're going to know more about their story, why they're here, why they were chosen, hopefully, because in Tears of the Kingdom, we got none of that. We got zero lore, zero questions answered about any of these sages. They just came and went in all of these different cutscenes after Link defeated the temples, each one by one, and they all said essentially the exact same story. Tears of the Kingdom story was pretty disappointing in that aspect, but now we are going to get a lot more answers. In the previous trailers, we could see the Gerudo Sage using her abilities to power up a regular Gerudo woman. Now we can see the same thing happening here with the Zora Sage powering up a just standard Zora person, and this looks fascinating to me because I think it has to do with the synchronized strike abilities. There is something going on here with a focus on companionship and powering up each other. They are really focusing on multiple people coming together and using their abilities together, and I think that's going to be a thematic identity part of this story, part of this game. They are definitely pushing this hard, and they're showing us more and more playable characters because this Zora is probably going to be a playable character. On the website, it shows that the warriors are here. It shows a bunch of different Zora, Rito, Goron, Hyrule people that are all coming together and are fighting for the cause. Now, will these characters all be playable? Their designs look pretty telling to me. I think they probably will. These will probably be the characters that would replace Age of Calamity's new generation of champions. All of the Riju, Sidon, all of those characters in the past, all of these guys are probably those versions of the characters that we obviously never got to see in Tears of the Kingdom because 100 years later made sense for that game in Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity, but over 1,000 years later did not make a lot of sense for these characters to still be around in Tears. So these are brand new characters and they are probably playable characters. So how are we going to balance this? getting a bunch of new characters while also learning about a lot of the old ones. They're going to have a pretty monumental task in front of them, seeing all of these new characters, developing them all, and making us care about any of them, because we have about 10 new characters here that we're going to be interested in. These 5 ones here, the 4 sages, and then of course, both Kalamo, the Korok, and then the Hyrulean maid, so that's 11. There are a bunch of characters, not even counting that construct I hope is Link, but there are a ton of new characters that we're just not certain about, and if they're going to be a part of this game as a big role or just a side character. Moving on in this trailer, a Rito Sage here we see is using a special attack on all of these blue bokoblins, and they blow them all up. Then Rauru and the maid behind her all are looking at something in front of them. There is a bunch of wind blasting in their face, and it's probably similar to the Queen Gibdo monster, but they're not in the Gerudo region, I don't think, from this background, so there's just something whipping up a lot of wind. My guess would be the Queen Gibdo, but the environment doesn't seem to match up with that, so something is causing all of this wind. Perhaps it's Ganon, perhaps they are all out there ready to battle, and he is right in front of them, and all of that wind is coming from his own power. Rauru then gets to see a bit of light in front of him. There's something going on there with him looking forward, and his arm is stretched out. It makes me think that is probably the cutscene in which he sacrifices himself to seal away Ganondorf for all of those years up until Tears of the Kingdom. It would be very interesting for them to put such a late game cutscene in this trailer here, but still, that appears to be what this environment is around him and what he is looking towards. He's probably sealing away Ganondorf. Then, of course, we get to see Zelda and all of the crew behind her looking forward at something. Then, of course, the Goron Sage and a bunch of his buddies are here. He gets a really cool pose. They're kind of putting the camera at him. He is right in the middle, and they're just showing off his muscles. They're showing off how amazing he is, and probably this is one of the first introductions to this character. Zelda then shares a moment with the Zora Sage as they are looking out into the distance. Then we get to the Rito Sage, the Gerudo Sage, and they're all looking forward off in the distance at something. They're just highlighting these sages like crazy in this trailer. Then, of course, we get a little ripple effect like the Tears of the Kingdom memory effect was. Then we get a bunch of different races and species coming here together to cheer or look up at something. This might be some sort of post-battle victory cry, or they're kind of cheering people on towards a battle. Not sure what they're hinting at with it, but I just really want to drive home the point that they continue to show us side characters. They continue to show us all these different people coming together. There is a theme of togetherness in these trailers. The next scene shows an absolutely epic portion of this game. We get to see Zelda, the Gerudo Sage, Minoru in the background, the Zora Sage, and the Goron Sage in the background, likely the Rito flying above, and then Rauru all running towards something together. This scene looks so epic. It's just so cool. I cannot wait to see what these characters are all about, to see this fight, and to feel that passion that they have for taking down Ganon, and just knowing that they're gonna lose. That's the craziest part about this. We're playing a losing game. We are fighting a losing battle. We know that we will eventually win the war, but this battle is not ours to be won. Again, we get to see the construct here with this Korok following close behind. The Hyrule warriors are all backing away from something, and they're all running away except for Link and this construct. Whatever he is, I am pretty confident he's Link. I know a lot of you were upset at me for even suggesting it could be Link back in the day, first on one of these trailers here, but I know this has to be Link, and he, of course, is walking towards whatever people are running away from, because that's what Link does. And of course, his Korok buddy is right behind him, the Great Deku Tree perhaps, but we know he has a name now. We know he's different than just a Great Deku Tree. We know he could potentially be that, but probably not. And just to hammer this point home one more time, this appears to be Link to me because his model is pretty much identical to Link in his walk and just his style. Like, everything here reeks of Link. Then Zelda is talking to the sages. Then we get to see her with her sword. This is probably her using it for the first time, looking at it, examining it. It's a sword of light, and it's very cool. Zelda then uses that sword, as she will a lot in this game. Then we get another symbol of togetherness, all of the hands coming together with these synchronized strikes, with all of it ending at the end here with this construct. Zelda is coming together with every single person in this game to unify, and this light right here with Link, with Zelda, it's special. Then, of course, we get to see even more togetherness with a synchronized strike between Zelda and the Rito Sage, using their abilities of wind and light to fight off these bokoblins here, and probably a lot more enemies later on in the game. We see Minoru using her staff, her little spear, with Rauru, a scene we saw in the previous trailer, their synchronized attack together. Then Link and Karamo are doing a synchronized attack together, with Karamo jumping off of Link's back and then attacking with his different abilities, his different fruits, like we saw in the previous trailer. Gerudo Sage fights off something something with her sword. We get to see a close-up of her reaching out her hand to Zelda again for, surprise, surprise, a synchronized attack. Interesting how they're focusing on togetherness in this trailer. Then Link comes out of his jet form, comes out of whatever form he was in. He goes back to his humanoid form, explodes onto the ground, and then a scene with Zelda and Hyrule looking across the Great Plateau, looking out into the horizon, and we get to see a beautiful landscape here that is, of course, calling back to Breath of the Wild's opening scene from Link running out of the tomb into the edge of this little cliff. All of the characters are together here now. They are standing in front of all of these cheering crowds, all of these different people here looking over at them and saying, "You got this, we believe in you." Then we get to see a side view of them we've seen before, all of them standing side by side, and of course there to serve King Hyrule, probably after Sonia's death, perhaps, because of course we didn't get to see Sonia in that little portion there, or maybe she's just in the crowd somewhere. Potentially she's not dead yet. We get to see the logo once more, this amazing logo. I've talked about this logo before, it's phenomenal. And of course, my big mistake from the last video, save data Link bonus. I thought Link meant the actual Link. I thought this was like the character Link, but you all pointed out to me in the comments how silly I was. The Link did not mean actually Link. It meant just linking your save data from these old games. Man, that was really silly looking back on it, but my mistake, my mistake. Thank you so much for correcting me in those comments. So that was the brand new trailer of Age of Imprisonment. I worked to get this out as quick as possible. I know I'm a little bit late on it, but I have been very, very busy lately, so this is what you're going to have to work with, and this date is probably going to be a little bit before the game comes out. We are about a week away from this game's release. It's so odd to me that they released this trailer rather than a typical overview trailer. It makes me wonder if we're going to get it, because technically it's not a first-party game. It's made by Koei Tecmo, so maybe this game is not getting the love and care that a typical first-party release would get with that overview trailer formula. Maybe that is just a Nintendo of America thing, and it's not going to be seen with this game because it's not a Nintendo game technically for that first party output. But again, of course, we can see very similar themes to all of these other trailers. This feels to me somewhat of a final trailer. Of course, we're going to get a launch trailer, but by then the game will be out, so there's no need to cover that. So this will probably be the last video that I am able to do covering this trailer, covering these games. I am so thankful to you and all your support over these videos. These videos have been so much fun to make. I love making them, and they have been received so well. So thank you so much for watching this one and all of them if you have seen them before. So make sure if you enjoyed this video, you like this and subscribe. Click that notification bell to know exactly when my videos release. And if you're on mobile devices, make sure you press that hype button to get my channel out to bigger eyes. Make sure that you click on the left side of your screen to see my recent video talking about the marketing of this game and how Nintendo's kind of letting it down, and click on the right side of the screen to see my playlist of all of the Age of Imprisonment breakdown videos compiled into one. Go watch that to make sure you're caught up for this game. Thank you for making it to the end. Make sure you have yourself a phenomenal day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.